Hi to everyone, in this tutorial we will make a tutorial on how to make this perspective effect, and of course we will use Next.js, Gsap and vanilla CSS. For making this effect I was highly inspired by Matías Pitters. It's more or less the same what I did, and he made this super beautiful website. It's like there is this perspective animation and also this opacity and blur animation in the images, and so yeah, my version is kind of different, but the principle are all the same. The first thing that I want to do is to store all the projects in one file. In this case, I'm creating a folder in the source directory called data, which inside there is another file called data.js. And in this file, there will be just a constant, which is data, which is an array of objects. And this object, I just have a text, which is just a simple copy. In this case, a lorem ipsum. There is an image, and each div it will have a class, which will be put in the class name, of course. Now I want to start with the JSX, and I'm adding a div with the class name of perspective, which is kind of the main wrapper. Inside there will be another div with the class name of perspective inner, which is where we are going to iterate. In this case, I'm importing the data. Each data, it will be a project. In this case, I'm making a div with the class name of project.class. And I also taking the index. So the first div, it will be with the index of 0. The second div, it will be with the index of 1, and so on. Inside, of course, there will be the image with the source of project.image, with also an alt with the project.text. The next element is a div with the class name of perspective-desk, which is where all the copy and button and all the things that you want to put it, there will be inside this div. So there will be an h2 with the project.text and a link with the button. We just need to import the link. Now we are ready to style, and I want to reset all the styling. Having a root of a black and a white color, I want to put the black color to the background of the body, resetting the style of the A. And I will start by styling the perspective, which is the main container of the whole animation. Of course, we want to put the overflow hidden because the images are going to overflow, so we don't want the horizontal scroll. We want to put a height of 100% and a width of 100%. We want to position relative. Of course, we want to add the perspective. This is like the most important property that without this, the animation will not work. Now I started styling all the divs, and they will have a width of 20%. And each image, it will have a width of 100% and a display inline. So finally the images are more literal. Now we also want each div to be positionally absolute. I want the one in the left to have the transform translate y at minus 15%. It will be centered vertically. So in order to do that, I'm just going to put a top of 15%. I just center vertically. And I want it to be on the left of 13%. Now I want to do the same for the one in the right. It will be, of course, on the top of 15% and in the right of 30%. And I want to put the one in the right with minus 10 rem in the Z direction. As you can see, the first one is the X, second one is the Y, and the third one is the Z. So it will be more far than the other one. And this will give the perspective animation. Each div will also have a transition of 0.1 second, and we need this one to have a smooth transition when we add the class with the opacity of 0. Without this one, the opacity will be immediately set, and it's kind of ugly. With this transition of 0.1, there is a little bit of fade, and we definitely want this. Now outside the text, it will be, of course, white. It will be more little and with a font weight of 400. Also the span, which is the button, it will have a color of black, a white background. It will have the same font size and a padding and a border radius to make it more like a button. And the third one, it will be just like the other divs. It will be just more far than the others. So I'll put minus 20 rem on the Z direction. Now we want to style the perspective inner, and for animating in 3D, we need this property. I'm also making this one position relative with the height of 100%. Now I want to select all the things that we need for Animate, and the first thing that I want to select is the triggers. It will be the element will be trigger the animation, and in this case it will be the div with the class name of perspective. Of course, I want to select the div which I'm going to animate the perspective itself, and this one will be the perspective inner. And I also want to select each div inside the map data. And I think in this case the best solution is to create a const called refs, where we are just going to iterate to each data, and to each data it will be a use ref. So in the first div we just need to put the ref, and the ref will be equal to the refs, and the refs will take the index. On the register ScrollTrigger, I'll put everything inside the use effect, and the first thing I want to do is to creating a cost called first anim, which is equal to the first refs, so the first div. I also want to animate the second one, and the second one of course will be the same, just with the number 1, so it will be the second one. I want to put all the animation inside the Gsap.context, so we kind of avoid some problems with the strict mode of React. Inside it there will be a timeline, and the timeline it will be a defaults with the ease of none. So the default, it means that each element that we are going to animate, it will have the ease of none. So now I want to call the scroll trigger. The trigger will be the trigger ref. It will start when the user reaches the top of the container, and it will end after the users are scrolled for 2000 pixels. The scrub is set to 1, so the animation plays when the user scroll. The pin is set to true, so the the animation will be positionally fixed. In this case, I also want to add the snap, and the snap means if the user stops scrolling, it's going to snap automatically to the closest element that the user have. And in order for reaching this, I'm making a simple calculation, which is 1 divided to 3. 3 is the maximum length in this case. Now we can finally animate the perspective itself. And by doing that, I'm just going to animate the translate 3D in the Z direction. So in this case of 45 rems. And the animation is already working, but as you can see, it's kind of ugly to have this super giant image which is never disappeared. So I'm just going to set an opacity of 0 at almost 0.300 seconds. And I'm also putting an opacity of 0 to the second div after 0.400 seconds. Never forget to return. This works for clean up the animation when the components gets unmounted. I'll give it a refresh, and now the animation is also working with the opacity. Now it's more pleasant to see. Now I'm also adding a spacer to the top and to the bottom, and this will act just as a spacing. And yeah, that's what I wanted to achieve. I think it's really nice if you want to showcase your projects, your work. Is a kind of nice feature to have in your websites. And I think that's all. I'm putting the link in the description to Matías Pitters. Thank you for this version. It was really cool to develop. And yeah, see you in the next tutorial.